It's Sunday night in the Dirthead Shed. I didn't get nearly enough done this weekend, so what do? You just start a new project. That's what you do. Seven o'clock on a Sunday night. This seems to be when I always start, like trying to get something done. It's probably not the right way to go about it, but that's what I do. There's the old MazGrande, looking good. I took it out for a drive today just to kind of put some miles on it and see what what needs to be done on it. Just kind of a lot of maintenance, keeping up on stuff like this. So I guess the first thing I did, I've actually been fighting with a dead battery the last few times I've tried to move it. And so this afternoon, I threw a new a full throttle battery in there. It's kind of hard to see because the wiring is a total disaster in here, but this thing has the battery mounted right here on the frame, down low as possible. And the old Group 24 that was in there kind of died after 5 years or something. So anywho, I threw a battery in it. I took it for a test drive. I went up to my friend Jim's house to check out his mini truck project he's working on and look at the Mustang 2 just to make sure it's something it's something that I do want to keep working on. And I do want to keep working on it, but first I got to maintain the stuff I've got. So Mazda's back in the shop. I got a laundry list of things that I want to do to it just to kind of keep it so it's always ready to go. Mazda's up in the air, hanging there. Look at this thing, it's so cool. Everybody's always questioning my suspension work on this and the airbags and all that. So here's just sort of a quick little look at it all. These are Airlift Dominator 2600 bags, front and rear. Scout 2 steering box. 3-link from Rough Stuff on this rig. This one's all Rough Stuff Heims and Rough Stuff steering and all that. Dana 60 out of a Chevy pickup, PSC hydraulic assist. Let's go look back here. We got Skyjacker, actually those are Foxes with Skyjacker stickers. Those are Fox shocks out of a lift kit for like a 2003 Ram 2500. And Method beadlocks, Yukon Hardcore locking hubs on it. It's also got Yukon super joints. Actually, no, this one does not. This one has Yukon chromoly shafts, but it's got regular Spicer joints. Let's see, moving back. That's the transmission that I had Marlon put together for me, transmission and transfer cases. And then this is the bell housing that I built on Dirt Every Day, where we took the front half of a Mazda bell housing and the back half of a Toyota one, and I welded the two of them together. That was a pretty wild project. So let's see. Basically, ooh, this is all the cool stuff too. I did a trailing arm rear suspension on this just about a year ago and put airbags on the back of it. And I've got a Dirt Logic shock on it now. So the back of this truck has like, I think almost 14 inches of vertical travel. It's pretty rad. So, but enough of that. Why I'm here right now is because this exhaust is like way too loud. This is a Thrush Rattler muffler, which is kind of a cool muffler, but on this truck it is just ear-piercingly loud, so it's got to go. So we're going to cut that guy off of there and figure out something better, something a little bit quieter, so that I'm not making everybody around me upset that I'm driving this thing. Might as well bust out a quick overview on the rear as well, since we're here. This is a Dana 70U out of like a 1982 Ford pickup, Ford F350, I believe it was. So that is kind of a cool axle. It's all smooth on the bottom here. It's got 717 gears in there, a Detroit in the back, and it's got a Yukon Grizzly locker in the front. So it's a pretty, like, it's just a junkyard axle basically, and then I put like a Rough Stuff disc brake kit on it, and I got the Eldorado style caliper, so it has parking brake option. And then I believe after I got this axle all dialed in, I went back and I 4-linked it. And this is actually a truss from Synergy Manufacturing, which is pretty cool. My friend Rob designed it. It's really trick. It's got like these recessed like finger mount style upper bolt holes. And then I used a Rough Stuff trailing arm kit, single shock trailing arm kit. And where the shock was supposed to go, I came in here and I cut it all out and made these bag mounts in it, and then I moved the shock farther back. So that's how it's getting all that travel, is because it's got the bag on the bar. And then up here, these are actually matching brackets for that truss. These are from Synergy Manufacturing as well. So this was kind of cool. I think I got one of the last sets of brackets before they quit making these kits. So pretty stoked on that. Bag mount is pretty simple. It's just plate work coming down off the frame. I like hand fabbed all that. And then you can see here, I've got the frame rail kicked in and then around. That way the shock can be basically where the frame rail used to be. If you look up here, this is rad. Man, I've done a lot of work to this truck. You can see this shock tower slash kind of step notch looking thing that I made for it. And that is for those Dirt Logic shocks. So pretty trick. And then I came back here. The old back of the frame was really ugly, and it had a bunch of different like bumper and trailer hitch and stuff like that welded to it. So at some point I came in and I just went ahead and cut the frame off and built this back section, slid it in, rosette welded it, added a little fish plate, and now it's super simple back of the frame. So, all right, let's get some tools out and cut that exhaust off. So this front portion of the exhaust was in here, I guess, from my very first version of this truck. And I have the pipe like going way up here, right up against the floor, so it gets super hot in the cab. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of cut off at the head pipe here and figure out just a new system altogether. Hopefully if I can get a little better muffler, or a little quieter muffler in here, I can also get a pipe that goes up and over the axle and then exits out the back a little bit. So let's cut this off and figure it out from there. All right, I think my hacksaw is smoked. The motor smells like it's wasted. Still going though, somehow. That's better. Let's see what we can fit back in here. I went upstairs and I was digging through my mufflers, and I've got some new mufflers, but then I've also got this used Dynamax Ultraflow. It's a 2 1/4 offset in, offset out. So I think it may have actually been on this truck once before, and it's going back on there. I think this one actually got cut off when I did the 4-link, and at the time I didn't think I'd have room to fit it again, so I'm gonna give it another shot and see if I can make this thing fit up in that tight space where the 4-link bars are. I'm gonna go cut the old pipes off of it and get to a good starting point. That blade's gonna break. I think it's time to call it a night. Go get a new porta band blade tomorrow. Where'd we leave off? I guess we left off on Sunday night. It was late. I broke my porta band blade. So it is now Wednesday and I have a new porta band blade. I went to Home Depot at lunch and picked up some new ones. So we should be good to go. I'm gonna throw that in there and then we will continue cutting up this exhaust, see if we can knock it out real quick. This is a Swag Offroad porta band stand. This is like a really cool invention, and it makes cutting all this type of stuff a little bit quieter, actually, is why I use it. I liked it originally because I was working outside and it didn't shoot sparks like the chop saw does. But now I just kind of like it because it's quiet and it doesn't leave a huge mess. One salvaged muffler. I think this thing's probably been on the Mazda before and got pulled off because I thought it wouldn't fit. So tonight it's time to make it fit back on there because the one that was on there was way too loud. After I did all the work on this thing, I ended up pulling the catalytic converter off, and I think it's time to put one back on. There is plenty of room under here now, and I'm pretty sure I can get a cat to fit. I don't think that I want to put it right here because that's like right underneath my feet and it's already really hot in this area. So I'm going to try to stuff one in this area right here, basically in this pocket that should be pretty well protected by this transfer case cross member. So I'm gonna start working towards that. I gotta do a little bit of cutting and grinding to make this thing fit right, but it should be able to fit back in there and keep this thing a little bit more legal. The cops are always kind of harassing me when I drive this just because the tires stick out so much. So I don't want to give them another excuse to mess with me. So that's gonna go back on there. Let's try to keep this truck legal-ish. I'll try and get as much of this welding done here on the bench as I can because it's super inconvenient doing it on the truck. I'm doing a butt weld here, and there's actually a pretty decent little gap you can kind of see. So I'm having to be pretty careful about how I weld it so I don't just burn bigger holes. All right. The first step is done. That turned out pretty good. I don't know if you can see it too well. Let's move this out of the way. But the welds turned out good. I have the welder set up. Basically, right now I have it set up on its auto set. 030 wire for 14 gauge, so it's not super high voltage right now. But it burns through this aluminized exhaust tubing pretty good. So Let me prop this up here. I'll have to make a cut to this end so that it all fits in there right, and then we will get it all tacked up in place. I hope this thing runs good. I do have some airbag lines over here, so I want to try and keep the exhaust away from that as much as possible, and the catalytic converter gets really hot, so wherever I put it, there it is. I will have to make sure that it's not too close to those air lines, otherwise that would be bad. Those are for the suspension system, and you don't want those to blow out because then your truck drops down. This should work out pretty good. Yeah, there's all kinds of room. I like it. All right, let's get the welder out. It seems like I do them a lot, even when I don't have like all the right equipment anymore. I used to run a shop, and it actually was mostly exhaust work that I did, so it's kind of hard. It's funny that I'm doing all this with like no bends and stuff like that, because it's like back in the day I had a nice exhaust bender. Someday, maybe I'll get another one. Right now, I will make do with what I got. Sweet! These are fun projects. Let's see here. It looks like I got all the way around there. Yep, nailed it. This is one of my little hacks in life. That's a hard drive from a computer. You always like want to like disassemble your old computer hard drives and recycle them and stuff like that. Well, the whatever disk that is, I pull those out and I use them as a mirror, and I figure by the time I'm done with it and it's all covered in weld splatter, that thing's not going to be readable anyway. So that's my little trick on that. Hacks and tips and tricks by Dave. All right, back to welding. All right, I think the muffler can go up here and find its new home. I'm running out of good places to prop the GoPro up. All right, let's get this ground hooked back up onto that new section of 2-inch that I put up here. And I'm looking for, basically I know that the drive shaft is going to be going up in this direction and this is going up in this direction. So I'm trying to figure out how to fit this muffler in here to where it's not going to become a problem with either of those items, the drive shaft or the upper link bars. And I'm feeling kind of like that's it right there. I'm gonna go ahead and throw a tack on here. I've got this, the front pipe and the catalytic converter are 2-inch, and then I just stepped it to 2 1/4 right here. So this is able to slip fit over that pipe coming out of the catalytic converter. Allowing me to do this without having to have a bunch of fancy tools, you know? I guess we'll find out if it's gonna work or not. I never really feel like exhaust work is, especially, it's never super permanent, especially on a rig like this that's changing all the time or getting rock crawled and kind of beat up. I always kind of like keeping these exhaust systems simple and inexpensive so that if you do smash that muffler on a rock, or if this bar comes in contact with that or something, it's not the end of the world. It's just, you know, an evening of work and some scrap metal, and you can kind of fix it back up. Let me weld this puppy, and then we will figure out a hanger for that. And it's welding good. You can tell by the sound, it's just like, it sounds like a zipper, you know? It's just like bzzz. When it sounds like that, or it sounds like sizzling bacon, that's what you're going for. All right. Heck yeah, moving right along. I've had this cross member welded in here forever, and I've had a little light tab basically welded on there forever, and it looks like it's gonna work for this exhaust hanger as well. So I just kind of got that rubber block hanger, cut off the old exhaust and bolted back up to that, and tack welded it to the case of the muffler. And then over here, it's always important to like double up on the mounts on these exhaust systems. So there's no better way to show that you're doing stuff in your garage at your house, like welding a piece of rebar on as an exhaust hanger. So I went and bent that in my vise with a wrench, and I'm gonna go ahead and weld that on there. So that'll just distribute the load so that the muffler doesn't just get a hole ripped in it from hanging there off that mount. This is another good trick. Always keep a bottle of soapy water around. I use soapy water so that I can find air leaks on fittings, and it's also just handy to have for doing stuff like this. It's also handy for stuff like this where you don't want to like melt the rubber in that bushing or something like that. See if it'll support itself. Yep. All right, the stand is out of the way. The exhaust is holding itself up. Sweet. let's figure out if we can get a tailpipe on this at all. Get that sound all the way out to the back. All right, I just ran in for dinner and I'm back. Muffler's all in place. I've got this section of pipe right here that was left over from the old stuff. It was actually up in this section here before trying to get around the old transmission crossmember. So I think it's gonna work out just fine in this location. Oh, sorry about that. That's backwards. Let me just hit it on everything. All right, it's gonna fit right here. I've got it cut to where it should butt up there and get a good weld out of it. It kicks up to where it'll get up over this link bar at full compression and then kind of ducks off to the side. So I'm gonna weld this thing in. That'll give us another spot to put a hanger on the back because I've already got a tab welded on this cross member. So I'll get that pipe to here. We'll weld a bracket on that so that we can use a hanger, and then I'll probably actually try and bring an exhaust pipe all the way out here to the back. And then hopefully we'll fire this thing up in a minute. Love it. All right, muffler, start of the tailpipe. I'll probably just do something that comes and drops down about here. I went through my scrap bin and I found this section of exhaust tubing that was left over from Cameron's Tundra. So I'm gonna cut a little section here and a little section here, and this will be my tailpipe turn down. Sweet, there we go. Go weld this thing on the back of the Mazda. We can call this done. Come on. That should work pretty good. It wants to go over it. It's just having a hard time with it. Let's see if I can fix that a little. I don't have a pipe expander, so what I'm going to do is just kind of work around this and kind of create a little bell on the edge. Not a whole lot, just enough to where it'll allow a little bit of overlap. A little bit of overlap just makes it weld better because you're not trying to burn holes just with a butt weld. All right. Cool. This is a piece of pipe that's the same size, and you can see right there, boom, we got a little bit of an overlap. I've got a nice spot to weld, and I should be able to burn that on without burning holes in it. There we go. That's going to be our tailpipe. It gets us out towards the back, turned down and out. Hopefully it doesn't just blow dust all over the ground, and it gets the noise out a little bit farther back than it was before. So let me weld that up. We'll add a hanger in here and we'll fire this puppy up. There we go. Another exhaust system on old MazGrande. This is probably number 4 on here since I've had it. We've got stock down pipe, 2-inch pipe off that stock flange, comes on back to factory catalytic converter that's just moved farther back, to some 2 1/4 scrap pipe, to a used, slightly used Dynamax Super Turbo, 2 1/4 in, 2 1/4 out, offset. The cool thing with an offset means that this pipe goes right like this inside. Offset center, they don't actually flow quite as well. So that's one of my little tricks, is if you can get an offset muffler in that turbo style, they actually flow a little better. Leftover 2 1/4 up over this link bar so that we've got clearance there. Leftover block hanger on a tab that I already had in place. Cameron's old tailpipe turned into my new tailpipe, and we'll get this thing down on the ground and fire it up, see what it sounds like. Pretty rad. That is fast, fun, and cheap. Those are the 3 boxes you want to check off when you do stuff like this. Come on down. All right, that's it for this Dirthead Shed. I think it's just time to see if this thing sounds good or not. Fire in the hole. It's quiet. It's a whole lot quieter. I don't hate it. Yeah, it sounds good. All right, for real, that's it for this Dirthead Shed. Thank you guys for watching. Go out in your shop, cut up some old exhaust pipe, scavenge some parts, do something cool in your rig. It's pretty fun.